my success as a team is more successful than LeBron. I got 6 rings.
Scottie doesn't know, so don't tell Scottie. Scottie doesn't know.
Salam everyone. Today I'm reacting to Scottie Pippen's new video he did with Patrick Bet-David. It was an interview he did. I thought it was pretty interesting. I wanted to share my thoughts. Some of them are pretty new, some of them aren't. I was watching and said, you know what, let me stop it here and basically share my thoughts. This will be my first real reaction video. I do have another reaction video where I react to a draft that was done and I do my own drafting, but this one's more of a traditional reaction video. I wanted to get my recording done, but because I didn't have any place to get a good quality spot to record with a good background, I'm just going to do it the old school way I usually do it, with the good old logo on the screen. I'd like to thank everybody for the subscriber count. I think it's at 320, 350 by now. So I'd like to thank everybody for that. The top 10 players of the 2000s, still on its way. Still want more information before I make my top 10 list. But that's enough rambling. Let's get on to the video.
Remembered, and you said, I want to be remembered as
the greatest of all time. You know, the reason why I say stuff like that is because when you play the game the way that I played it, why can't I say that?
Oh, that's okay. You can say that. No one's saying you can't say that.
Yeah, say it and mean it.
Oh, so you
know
do
what
believe that?
I'm saying? Yeah. Too. Look at my accolades. I got defensive player, all NBA. So playing the game the right way and winning means something to me.
Watch the NBA. Okay, to me, they've lost me as a fan. You, as somebody who was face known worldwide, what happened to the NBA the last 10, 20 years?
And so in the first segment, they cover what's changing about the NBA, the viewership going down, etc. And David's point here, it reminds me of, let's call him Uncle Steve. I had a guy, or an uncle at least, and we used to talk about sports, and I remember when I was younger, he said he stopped watching basketball because things got too soft. And at the time, I didn't really understand it, but as I watch more games now and games have gone on, I fully understand what he means, and he's just another example of my Uncle Steve.
Well, I feel like that the game changed. It became more of a perimeter shooter game, if I could say that. And I think I remember right when I was leaving the game, early 2000, that the league promoted more scoring. They wanted to get more points up on the board. They felt.
I know a bunch of you my era guys are hating what he's saying here. When you look at it, it's all facts. From the commissioner, GMs, former players, they all talk about this. There was a time when the NBA decided, just like they shortened the three-point line, they changed so much of the rules so where players could score more points. I hear people now, especially my age, talk about this is how basketball should be played. But how do you know how basketball should be played? They literally changed how basketball was and should be played and changed it so a casual, someone who doesn't really care about basketball, can watch basketball and make stupid takes like you guys do.
Like that would get the fans more engaged.
Tail end of your career.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
So it at that point, to me, it started looking more like a game built for offensive players, guys that did play defense and, took pride in playing defense, were to some degree punished, I felt like, because everything was working in favor of the offensive player. And then they put the circle in there where a guy is not allowed to take a charge at certain.
This is not exclusive to the modern era, even though they're the main reason why I feel this way. But the charge foul, especially the blocking foul, I hate the blocking foul. Gosh, just contest a shot, try to block the shot, but you freaking falling on the floor, I can't. It's gross.
points in the lane at a certain position in the lane. So I think with a lot of things changing within the game, and a lot of it was for the good. Looking at the physicality of the game as to where it was in the 90s, but I think
Maybe, maybe not. I'm not too sure about that. But what I will say, I severely miss the days where a player would foul someone when it was the right thing to do. Nowadays, it's completely gone from the league. I feel like maybe the players like banned it themselves. I don't know if they have agreement not to do it, or the league just stopped it altogether. But there was a time where if a player had an easy basket, you would stop him. You would wrap him up because they would guarantee that easy basket, and you would make him earn it at the free throw line. And to Scottie Pippen's point, I don't think players should get, clotheslined like Kurt Rambis. But at the same time, that strategy of stopping easy points, it's not really in the NBA anymore.
a lot of that got wiped away, and I think that's where a lot of the fans lost interest in the game.
So you're saying because LeBron said the 3-point game, right? A lot of people said the 3-point game. You're saying the defense. Rob, I just pulled this up, which is
I'd also like to add, I've said this before too, the same way I feel Michael Jordan would average more points in today's game, Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson. I think a player like Kawhi Leonard and the great defensive players that are in today's game, they're better than what we think they are because they don't have the ability to give it their all like the former defensive players did.
very interesting stat, by the way, based on what you're saying. I pulled up what the NBA averaged the least amount of points, okay, per game over the history of it. Rob, just pull up the link and put it up. Very, very interesting. The last year you guys won the championship together, was it 97-98 or 98-99?
It was 97-98.
97-98. So this is interesting. Zoom in a little bit, Rob. So if you look at the league right there and go on to the category of points. Points is, keep going to the right, keep going to the right, keep going right there. There's points right there, right there. Okay. So watch that. In 2024, 2025, right now the NBA averages 113 points a game. Last year was 114, 115, 110. So since 2018, it's been averaging 111 points a game. Then if you go back to 2012, it was 98, 96, 99, okay? If you go a little bit lower, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Look at the 97, 98.
Yeah.
Now you see 92 points a game. That's 98, 99, 95.6, 96.9, right? With the points per game. What else do you think it is that turned fans away from the game? Because to me, how much of it do you think, and I'll ask these questions, and you're probably going to be more diplomatic than me because you're in the game. How much of it do you think David Stern, what is the different style of David Stern running the NBA versus an Adam Silver?
Night and day comparison, really.
I felt like David Stern era, he ran the game. I think Adam Silver's era, he's more or less allowing the players to have some input in terms of how the rules of the game are changing.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it looks like it's pretty bad right now.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
But I think from a standpoint of players being healthy, those are some precautionary measures that they've taken in the game where players don't like to play back-to-back. So I think it's a lot of things, you know. I definitely feel like the three-point shot has turned fans away from the game because it's just no teamwork in shooting a three-point shot. There's no teamwork in coming down and taking a shot from behind the three-point line. But there's teamwork in coming down and executing a play. Everybody touches the ball, and you get a bucket out of it, whether it's a 2 or a 3. But it's something that drew fans, drew people to love the game, to love certain team. Was the Golden State Warriors. They had sort of a team chemistry where they moved the ball, but it was about a lot of jump shooting, a lot of three-point shooters, but they had the greatest shooters in the history of the game, and they had the greatest shooters in the game at that time. So it was a great sight to really see.
I would give Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors credit for this. They really did impact the way the game was played, especially on the NBA level. Of course, the NBA, we're going to tend to the more shooting and scoring and things of that nature. But at the same time, they put up so many threes on teams that other teams felt like they just had to shoot more threes to keep up with the scoring.
A great team executing, playing together, and shooting the three-point shot. Well, in today's game, as we watch it, we don't see that great team chemistry of a team that has been doing this and have longevity of success. So it makes it hard for you to lock in and like what you're seeing.
Yeah, it's funny. A few years ago, the NBA All-Star, probably 5-6 years ago, I don't know if you remember, Giannis had the team, LeBron had the team. In the fourth quarter, they were playing up to 157. Whoever hit 157 would win. I saw defense I hadn't seen since your era.
At best, that was mid-2000s defense, but let's continue with the video.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Even Kobe would play the defense in in All-Star games. So you would see that element. Himself, McGrady, some of these guys would play. But in that moment, I'm sitting there thinking to myself as a fan, I'm like, why am I liking this? This is freaking amazing. So defense was very attractive to me because it's a fight, right? It's a fight that the other side is putting up. I want to ask you a question. When you were playing...
And that's why I won't make any arrangements for the All-Star game. If I still happen to be off and I'm free, maybe I'll watch it, but I'm not really into it. The three-point contest is the only thing at this moment I'm looking forward to. I guess the dunk contest peaked at 2016, and it never looked back.
And you guys had fans in Chicago. You guys were, can we say that the 10-year run you had, you were like the Beatles. You were like Elvis Presley. You were like, is it fair to say, no matter where you guys went, everybody wanted to see you guys? The show in town, no matter where you guys went.
I would definitely say that's fair, but I would give a lot of the credit to Michael Jordan because of the fact that he had created something with the Chicago Bulls, and that myself and other guys that came along, we built up on that. And it became, in the late 90s when we got Dennis Rodman on the team, that we were, or people looked at us as a rock band. And when we came to different cities, we had that kind of feeling that, we had to put on a show.
It's something I really wish I could have seen. It's definitely interesting to think that there's a team to surpass even the Golden State Warriors' recent popularity, the Cavaliers' recent popularity, the Big Three Heat recent popularity. And when you ask people who were alive for the 90s, they would say it's not even a discussion, not even close. So I wish I was there for that.
Had to perform. And that's why when you look at those teams, and especially my Bull teams back there were no days off, Position. I mean, his words speak for itself. I mean, he's never gonna put himself in a position where his political thinking, his political mindset. He stays away from that. He's a basketball player. He's not a politician. He's not one that's going to get involved in any kind of debate.
It's a double-edged sword on this one, because this here is the reason he's GOAT 1B. But why is he not GOAT 1A? Because GOAT 1A of greatest athletes of all time, easily Muhammad Ali. Not only was he arguably the greatest of all time in his own profession, but he was more than just an athlete, and he stood on his beliefs, sacrificing both the belt and his prime for his beliefs and convictions.
He's going to focus more on playing basketball and what it takes to win championship.
Or something like that on Instagram. If social media was wrong when you guys were playing, how big would you guys and would Michael have been?
Wow.
I mean, Ronaldo's got 647 million followers right now on Instagram.
And I'm kind of glad he brought this one up. I've had this thought for maybe 2 months now. All the time when I go on shorts and TikTok, no matter what, flooded with mainly Ronaldo, but Ronaldo and Messi shorts and edits and things of that nature. I wonder, with all the knowledge I know and how much people loved Michael Jordan and admired Michael Jordan and what he accomplished and how big the basketball was in the 90s, I always thought, I think Michael Jordan is probably bigger, if not at least on the same level as Ronaldo and these guys. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of soccer, and I'm not some international guy, so I'm not too familiar on that take, but I'm definitely happy that someone else who probably does know a little bit more about soccer than me has the same opinion, and we're going to hear what Scottie Pippen has to say.
How big would it have been if social media was around when you guys were playing? Maybe Dennis Rodman would have had the most following. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, hey, it would have been different. Definitely, you know, with looking at these numbers, you don't know how, you know, being a player that played in the 90s, how these numbers come about and, you know, what they really mean, because we didn't grow up in this social media era. But definitely, you know who you're talking about. You know that, you know, he's one of the greatest players, greatest athletes in the world, and 647 million speaks for itself.
So you think Michael would have been there if social media was around at that time? Because Michael kind of took the NBA to...
I think he would have probably doubled that, I'm going to be honest.
Seriously?
Yeah, I would say, because basketball in the 90s, when it first jumped off and, you know, just... having social media back then would have just been amazing. You know, I remember in 1987 when I was drafted, that's when the NBA signed a international deal with China, where games were now being shown all over, you know, the world pretty much, definitely all over China. So the game was growing then. And, you know, at that point, I mean, Michael was 4 or 5 years already into the game. So I'm just speaking... when I started in the league, that, yeah, the growth of what I've seen in basketball, I've traveled all over the world, from Italy, Germany, early 90s, late 80s, have breakfast with them to meet their families, just to see what their lives are like away from the game, just having the opportunity to say, I'm a friend of Larry Bird. You know, that's better than me going through my whole career and saying, hey, I played against Bird 5 times, you know, and yeah, he was tough. But that opportunity to kind of break bread, to bond, it kind of opened up a different door for us, I guess, in the NBA world, because we've never had that opportunity to really come together. It was always about competing. You know, you look at the Bulls and the Pistons, and there was never a opportunity for us to ever just come together and break bread and say, hey, we had some great competitive years, man, and this and that, just to talk basketball. But that moment to get all those players together, and you build more respect for people too, you know, just after that. I mean, I had opportunity. We played against Karl Malone and John Stockton twice after that, you know.
But the biggest thing to me is, like, it's the head coach is Chuck Daly. He is Isaiah's coach, right? I mean, he's the guy that they went together with. You mean to tell me, like, either David Stern is not a fan of Isaiah to say, I'm going to pick Chuck and you're not going to get in. I mean, that's like so to me, it almost has to be a David Stern thing that says, you didn't represent something like this. You disrespect the NBA tradition. I'm going to not put you there, and I'm going to put your coach and Michael, and this will be a taint as the greatest team ever put together you want a part of. That's what I'm trying to say, because I see David Stern as a boss. I see him as
I will not let you say that, because I don't think that would be fair. David Stern has nothing to do with USA basketball.
I won't really go into this part of the video, but definitely suggest, if you are interested in watching the original video, you go and watch that part where he basically not blames it on, but he kind of blames it on the USA president, or USA basketball president. I think it's C.W. Newton or something along those lines, but you would have to look back at that.
and you said, I want to be remembered as the greatest of all time. And this was the Unguarded, and this came out November 9, 2021. If I'm not mistaken, The Last Dance came out during COVID. Was it April of 2020? I couldn't even tell you when The Last Dance came out. If you want to type in The Last Dance 2020 premiere, there it is. Okay, April 19th, 2020, which, by the way, the timing of that documentary couldn't have been better than the way it did right after COVID, because we all watch it Sunday night, 2 episodes for 5 weeks straight. So you were glued to the screen, 8 o'clock East Coast till 10 o'clock, and I'd bring the guys to my theater room. We'd sit there, watch that documentary together. It was epic. But when you said that, this is the one part that I'm really curious from your end. You said, I want to be remembered as the greatest of all time. And there was kind of a little bit of the conflict where you were not happy about The Last Dance, about the stuff that was said, and maybe not enough being covered with you guys. You saying, I want to be remembered as the greatest of all time, how much of that was really what you believed in? How much of that was you trying to sell a book? And how much of that was somebody behind closed doors flattering you, saying you didn't get enough credit for what you did during the Chicago's run?
When you play defense at a high level like Scottie Pippen, you're going to have a supreme competitive drive, as you have to want to play defense to play defense. Of course, the athleticism is there, and if you're not athletic and want to play defense, you'll just be a pretty good defender. You won't really get credited. Like, no one really goes like a head over heels about Larry Bird's defense, even though he is a good defender. And so it makes sense that someone that competitive would want to see themselves as the greatest player of all time. But obviously, his stats, the eye test, the game, nothing about Scottie Pippen is the greatest player of all time. At best, he's the greatest Robin of all time.
I think it's just me believing in myself, in the way that I played the game, that I did it the right way. I did it where I won. I played the right way. My teammates loved the way that I played.
You say stuff. You're Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
You're not just a regular player that played.
Let's pretend Scottie Pippen had the resume of a LeBron James. Let's pretend he had the resume of a Kobe Bryant, a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Even if he was in somewhat discussion with the GOAT comparative to Michael Jordan, that game where he refused to put himself back in the game, that's not playing the right way. Not only did he, for a good portion, if not always, like, ruin the way I felt about him from that, he would never be considered the GOAT in my eyes, even if it was close with a stunt like that.
In the game, you're a Hall of Famer, top 50, and arguably when we put our starting 5 together, dude, I want you on my team because I want somebody that plays defense the way you do, that's an all-around guy, that as a defensive player, dude, I can only imagine in practice how I was guarding Michael every freaking day in practice. What is that going to do to you? That's a scary job to have, to get better at that, right? But you said the greatest. So
I don't have the MVPs, but guess what? Somebody that was with me got it.
would you say...
I didn't have the final MVP, but hey, we won the championship.
It's literally how some LeBron arguments be, but nah, honestly, what is this man going on about?
I get that, but that could be to say you
Well,
would have...
here's my thing is, to me, before the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
I had never in my life heard anything about a GOAT in basketball.
Though I'm going to criticize Scottie in just a few seconds, I'd like to add, to some degree, he's right. There isn't a greatest player of all time. As in, like, actually. You can't actually say this player's the greatest player of all time. There's too many factors. Competition, travel, technology, all that stuff's too much of a role. You know, you have players who watch other players. Is that fair to say someone who watched someone else is better than someone? To me, I don't really know about that.
Interesting. Really?
Never. I had never heard anyone say, who's the greatest player in the NBA
Scottie.
before the 90s? Who was that guy then? If you had heard that, who was that guy? And why is he not being mentioned today?
I would say the debate pre-90s, you got to realize, I'm in the Middle East during that time.
I understand that. I understand that. So
the greatest basketball player in Iran was probably a different guy. But if I were
a team, the man he would take first is Bill Russell. But even Red Auerbach changes.
Well, it used to be Bill Russell. Now Larry Bird's pushing him pretty good. And if I had to choose between them at this point in time, that would be one of the great decisions of my life. I would
to say the discussion, when I hear that one time that I don't know if was NBA was celebrating the top 50 greatest players of all time, and Wilt and Michael are in the corner having a heated debate. This is a story I've read about. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've read about it in many different places.
Let me just go back a little further.
Please.
Let's go back to the 80s.
Okay.
Before the 80s. Let's go in the mid-80s. Who was the GOAT?
During that era of all time.
Of all time.
One of them. I think he's the best athlete I've ever seen play basketball, bar none. If I were going to pick people with the best ability I'd ever seen play the game, he'd be one of them. If I were going to pick the best competitors that I'd ever seen play, he'd be one of them. So in the categories of competitiveness, ability, skill, and then athletic ability, he's the best athlete, he's one of the best competitors, he's one of the most skilled players. And that, to me, makes him the best basketball player that I've ever seen play.
I would say there's a strong argument at that time for Wilt being the greatest of all time. Because the Lakers hadn't yet gone on their
Why?
dominant, destroyed his opponents.
So
Some
why
would
is
say
he
Bill
not
Russell.
mentioned now?
But up until, let's say, 1967, you could make the argument that as great as Wilt was, and he was Goliath, he didn't have as good a team, generally speaking, around him as the Celtics. But after the Sixers won that one title in 67 with that awesome team, they definitely had a better team than the Celtics in 68, and they had a 3-1 lead in the playoffs, and the Celtics came back with a lesser team and beat them. The next year he's with the Lakers, they got a 3-2 lead, and the Celtics come back and beat him with Russell's last team and Emmett Bryant and Bailey Howell and Don Nelson. And then the next year he's with the Lakers again, and they're no worse than even with the Knicks, and the Knicks somehow beat them. And when those 3 losses came consecutively, that's when it was sealed. If he had won 2 of those 3, he could have changed the reputation, maybe.
Why is he not? I don't even hear about him now.
Oh, I mentioned it.
Of course, the media is pushing a LeBron James argument, but come on, man. Of course Wilt Chamberlain is in the discussion. Wilt Chamberlain has always been in the discussion. So has Bill Russell. It's just in 1993.
Well, I mean, you're talking about the guy that has...
he got 13 rings.
Well, no, he didn't get 13 rings. Russell got... you're talking about Russell.
I mean, Russell, yeah.
I'm talking Wilt.
Well,
Russell got the 11 and the 2 additional ones. Yeah, 13 rings. But there's a difference because we can say Ori got 7, right? Ori's not in the discussion of all time. But Ori wasn't the face of the
Do you feel that Michael is the best ever?
I think so. I think
games, sports. For example, it's very tough for baseball. I don't know if you're a baseball guy or not, but in baseball, if you say who's the greatest of all time, you could say Babe because he was a two-way player and he hit the 700 plus. He had 60 home runs in a season. You could say Barry Bonds, but Barry didn't win the chips, and his career in the playoffs is suspect. You could say Willie Mays. The argument is Willie. When I have the conversation, it's Willie. But then you could say you forgot about all the pitchers.
Here's my punchback at that. Did Barry Bonds ever strike anybody out?
No.
So what did he do on the other side of the field to make him the greatest?
He was a Golden Glove guy. He was a good, but he didn't strike people out. But I think it's a different game in baseball than basketball. I think in basketball, when I think about basketball, okay, so maybe let me play this game in a different way with you.
How about basketball players get to play offense and defense unlike football and a lot of players in baseball, you get to play offense and defense. Michael Jordan, two-way player. Hakeem Olajuwon, two-way player. Scottie Pippen, he could dunk the basketball. He was a great defender. He was a good playmaker.
You're an NBA owner, Scottie.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to play a game called NBA Draft Pick.
Yeah.
Who's your number one draft pick to put a team together?
Which era?
Any era. Today, to play today, who do you pick as your number one draft pick?
In today's era player, I'll take Wembanyama, the young player with San Antonio.
So your all-time to pick your number one draft pick, you pick Wemby 1. Wow. Who's 2?
Well, you saying now, so I got to look at this era and say, hey, this kid young, he's got 1 year. Yeah.
So you think Wemby
I'll develop him.
You think Wemby in this era does better than Michael would do in this era?
And at this point, the Scottie Pippen we knew and loved, he was officially here. He's ready to play. And of course, being as hard-headed as ever. Now, when it comes to discussing the GOAT and the qualifications of the GOAT, Patrick did a pretty bad job. And he really could have made this a lot easier. But he does expose Pippen on this next segment here. And Pippen, again, being dumb, you know, he's going to say the excuse was it was this era. He thought it meant this era. He's just a fool sometimes.
Well, you asked me this era. That's why I asked
I got you.
Which
then do
era
all time.
you asked
I'm
me
sorry,
to
do
pick
all
from.
time.
Do all time. Then I'm going to pick my era. I'm going to pick the team that won 6 titles.
Who's your number one draft pick? Player.
I'm going to pick Michael.
Okay. Who's your 2?
I'm going to pick me.
I agree. Who's your 3? To put a team that wins, who's your 3?
I'm going to pick Dennis or Horace Grant, whichever era.
I see what you're doing. I see. Okay, so let's just say Dennis is.
And so it seems like Patrick's not going to be able to move Pippen from this whole era thing. I don't think Pippen either understands the whole all-time thing. No, matter of fact, he does understand the all-time thing. And again, he's playing the fool. He doesn't want to give his real answer. But when he was asked about the 1990s first pick, he picked Michael Jordan number 1. Then he picked himself number 2. And then he picked himself Rodman number 3. Why? Because that's his personal order of importance of the Chicago Bulls, as everyone else would agree.
3. Who's your 4?
Don't matter. Give me anybody. I'll take you.
So let me get this straight. So your mindset is you, Michael, and Dennis will beat any team that anybody puts together.
We did it for 3 years.
Twice.
No, I did it with Horace the first time. But yeah, me and Michael did it
that's
for
right.
6.
That's right. That's fair enough. I'm sorry. Yeah. So that's why I said Dennis or Horace. Okay. But if you're, and I want to qualify this because to me.
Wouldn't you have loved a genuine answer like Kareem, Jordan, Bird, or LeBron, Kareem, Magic? I mean, you can even lie and say Jordan is not number 1, but at least give us a real list. The Bulls, Wembanyama, it's all retarded to me.
That could still be a safe space answer because you're still. Would you put yourself ahead of LeBron?
As a team standpoint.
Would you put yourself ahead of LeBron as a team standpoint?
My success as a team is more successful than LeBron. I got 6 rings. Players are now allowed to take 3 steps going to the basket, you know? And so you wonder, you're like, wow, that's not a traveling. But it's not.
Yeah, it's a different game. It's just not as exciting to me, though. Let me ask you this question. You have one of 2 choices.
Not super entertaining, not super funny, but at the same time, definitely wanted to add this in here. And he was asked, would he rather 100K or an extra ring? A ring without Michael. And later on, he was asked 50K or an extra ring. I think his answer is kind of telling on the person he is, etc. Now, either answer can be acceptable, but just hear his reasoning.
How about additional $50 million or that ring?
I don't know. Maybe I'll take the ring.
Interesting. So the number is what matters. The 100 million.
The rings. It matters to be known as the best. It matters to be the best. It pays to be at the top.
Could be just me, but in my personal opinion, doesn't really sound like he wants to be known as the greatest player of all time.
So,
Scottie, so let's just say let's change this. Good for you. Okay. So here's a crazy question for you. You ready? The Bulls don't draft you. You get drafted to the Atlanta Hawks. It's you, Dominique, Kevin Wilkins. Michael doesn't pick you up. The Bulls get, can you go to the 87 draft? Go to the 1980, what a game we're playing here. 1987 NBA draft. Zoom in. Okay, so where are you picked? You're number 5. Okay, so Michael and the team, they pick up Kenny Smith.
Did he just compare Scottie Pippen to Kenny Smith? Now, Kenny Smith was definitely better on the Kings than he was on the Rockets. But why is that a comparison? Why was that an equal trade? How does that prove anything? He's going to ask him how many championships, but I know he's going to ask him how many championships he thought he could have won, but let's be honest. What type of question is that?
Obviously, it's not up to him, but say you go to somehow, some way, you end up with the Atlanta Hawks and Kenny Smith goes to the Bulls. How many championships do you guys win at the Hawks, and how many championships does Michael win without you going there?
Personally, I think they both could end up winning either 2 to 3 championships. Both teams have that potential.
I still get my 6.
Stop it, Scottie.
3-3. I thought you knew.
I know the number. Trust me, I know the number. So you'd win 6, you're saying?
Yes.
How many does Michael win?
Maybe he may be somewhere with LeBron, 2-3, somewhere.
LeBron's got 4 now.
LeBron got, I thought he had 5.
No, he's got 4. He won 2 with Miami, 1 with Cleveland, 1 with the Lakers. Now you're throwing me off right now. How many did he win?
I am thrown off.
No, he won 4. He won 4.
Okay.
He won 4. He's 4-6 in the finals, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I would say, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to get my 6.
Like I said, at best, they both get 2 or 3. And that's if Scottie Pippen matures and becomes the player that he ended up becoming, which is not a guarantee.
So you, Wilkins, Dominique, say Michael gets Michael, Horace, and Kenny. You're still getting your 6.
Yeah, they can't stop me. Who gonna stop me then?
That is, I don't want to look. You're right there. That's why I said Drexler. So, man, so NBA defense. Okay, go to 1990 rating right there. Elijah Robinson, Lambeer, Rodman, Malone. Zoom in a little bit, Rob, if you could. Mark Eaton, Young. So it's always going to be the centers, but go Mark, Jerome Kersey, Clyde Drexler. Okay, you and Clyde Drexler. I'm trying to get Michael somebody. Keep going lower. Is that all? Okay, keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Man, see, that's the thing. The thing with you is...
I was a pretty good fit.
Oh, understatement. Understatement. But you and Drexler.
Credit to Scottie Pippen, as of course, he was a very good fit, and it did work out very good for them. I could argue in the 90s Michael could have used a center, but a great fit nonetheless, and it definitely showed.
Michael and Barkley. Because Barkley was a BMF.
Oh, he was a beast.
You and Drexler, Michael and Barkley. Who would have had more chips?
I don't know. I think me and Drexler might get him.
Stop it.
I don't know if Michael will be able to keep his thumb on top of Charles.
And you can't really say he outdone himself, but I'm just going to credit back to his all-time defense and his all-time competitive drive. But fine, let's swap Barkley out with Karl Malone. Let's see how that goes.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if he can hold Charles down.
Meaning keeping him coachable?
Yes, for a season to win a championship.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so keeping him disciplined to be a good Robin.
Yeah.
Very interesting that you're saying that.
I still like my chances.
This just got very interesting for me. Okay, so disciplined Michael and Karl Malone. You and Drexler. Because Karl Malone's disciplined.
Yeah.
He scored 32, I think 30.
I may give them the edge.
You may give him.
I had to skip over some of the Wilkins production, but Wilkins was a beast, and I definitely think Pippen, if he was Pippen that we always knew, with Wilkins, could probably get a ring off. But this question here, if Pippen was with the Drexler, so they're in different conferences, and Jordan has Malone or Barkley. Now, there's no real discussion here. As Scottie Pippen, unless he played another team other than Jordan, would have 0 championships. And whether Barkley or Malone, they would have infinite championships. As Barkley's run, I'd say Jordan and Barkley would probably stretch maybe 86 through 98, where Malone and Jordan would probably stretch up until 2000.
The edge.
Yeah, Carl's a tough matchup.
Okay. This just got very interesting, Scotty.
Yeah.
So,
and Patrick's going to go ahead and do that laugh again, because Pippen has just been funny. He said some truths for sure, but when it comes to Michael Jordan and how good Scottie Pippen is, he's just a funny guy.
Wow. So I learned if you have to choose between $100 million and winning a championship without Michael, you take the 100. But if it's 50, it looks like you did accounting in your mind. You're like 50 million, 50% taxes, agent, 20 ends up to me. I'll take that chip.
Yeah.
That was interesting. And then Dominique just got into the conversation today, and Drexler and a bunch of these other guys.
Why don't we swap John Stockton with Scottie Pippen? You have Pippen and Malone, Stockton, Jordan. My guess, Jordan comes out 6-0, but I'm not that sure Pippen would even make the finals twice.
They ain't even in the same lane.
Did you see today? By the way, what a freaking point you just made. Condensing time frames. You know, I don't know if you saw the stat today. Who posted it that said, yes, LeBron may have passed Michael in the most 30-point games. It'll take another 32 years to pass Michael in 40-point games, right?
Yeah. It's like, it's not even worth talking about.
The two of them.
When you ask who's better, LeBron or Michael, you can't ask me who's the GOAT between LeBron and Michael. Neither one of them are GOATs. They both won differently. You can't put them at the top of the pinnacle. Magic Johnson, to me, is a bigger GOAT than anybody because
how with a player like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, they could go to 9 finals. Now, of course, Kareem was not in his prime. Magic Johnson made the finals and won without Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He had that whole rookie Game 7 thing. Magic Johnson's a great player, but Magic Johnson is no Michael Jordan. Not only did Magic Johnson say it himself, but who would even make that argument? Who would make an argument that a player in the finals dubbed Tragic Bronson is above Michael Jeffrey Jordan? I mean, I wouldn't.
So how he led, how he brought a whole team play in a cold climate.
Who did Philly have at that time? Was it AI? Was it still AI? Or was it? Yeah, it was AI.
Yeah.
Because it was tail end. So it would have been AI.
Yeah.
They had, well, he didn't have, he had Dikembe Mutombo, I think. I don't know if he had a left already.
As an Olajuwon fan, those late 90 runs, here's what they messed up. One, Olajuwon, he wasn't as good as he used to be from that 96 injury. His last championship, his last playoff run, he hurt his elbow, and his points were off. Was he older? Yes, but his points and shooting were off. It was pretty obvious. Two, they let all their shooters go. Then, not only do they let their shooters go, okay, they get Charles Barkley, who I think he's a great player. I think he's an all-time great player. Pippen said here how Pippen or Charles Barkley was lazy. I'm going to bring up later down the line how Charles Barkley was 1 foot in, 1 foot out. He wanted to retire. There was no reason to have him on. And then you have a guy like Scottie Pippen. Not only does he have these issues every now and then, he can't shoot. He's aging. Where are the shooters to surround Hakeem Olajuwon? That's why they lost, and it really pisses me off.
I showed no interest. I definitely wanted to be in a warm climate, and I saw Houston as an opportunity for me really to play.
And it's clear Scottie Pippen wanted no part of being in Philly, so it probably wouldn't have worked at all. But him filling in, him keeping his defensive assignment, and Allen Iverson being the scorer. Now Allen Iverson doesn't have the defense of Michael Jordan, but I really do think they probably could have made some real noise if Pippen did play alongside Allen Iverson.
They were two veteran guys, and that we could, make something happen real quick. And it was the lockout season, but it was definitely a short-lived. In fact, Charles started out working out with me, and he was all dedicated and working out, me and him with Grover. I took Grover down there, and he lasted about a month.
Was it because what? It's just a little too much with Grover?
No, it wasn't too much for Grover. It was too much for him.
No, that's what I'm saying. To go with Grover, it's a little too much for Charles.
He wanted to enjoy his nightlife, and our workouts were predicated on getting up in the morning and training before practice.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, and it's when the business pays you a lot of money and you have the ability to go party. Sometimes it's hard to say I want to get up and go get that ring. And for everybody, by the way, who's your favorite teammate you ever had, and who was your best teammate you ever had?
Wow. Can I give them both to Michael? I mean, I can't knock him and say he was a bad teammate. I can't knock him and say he wasn't my favorite. I mean, it's horrible to play with. He was all one-on-one. We had a lot of success, so I would say he probably fit both of those categories.
Huh. Scottie, you're interesting, buddy. I got to tell you, who's your second favorite?
I mean, I love playing with Horace Grant. I love playing with Dennis. And I would probably say Horace was probably my favorite at first because we got drafted together. We went to the Bulls together. We won our first 3 championships together, but he ended up leaving. So the bond with Michael became better, and just on the court, really.
There. Why did so many people want?
Well, they left.
No, I get that, but they won championships.
Yeah. Well, when you're young, you can work for Pat Riley, but as you get older, like a Jimmy Butler, his system.
Is Pat Riley outdated? That is an interesting question because coaches do get outdated, especially their training concepts, mainly due to the fact they can't connect with the younger players as much. Is that something that's the case? Is he pushing them too hard? Let's find out. Whatever you guys may think, leave it down in the comment below.
Break you down.
I can see that. And by the way, you know what that could tell me as well? Look, Nick Saban wasn't a good NFL coach, But he went and became the greatest college football coach of all time.
Yeah, but I think you have to look at the game differently from a whole perspective.
What do you mean by that?
These players ain't about winning championships no more. They're about running a business.
Got it.
Okay. So Jimmy Butler knows that his body is his business.
Is this Tim Duncan and the Spurs' fault? Mainly Greg Popovich and the Spurs' fault? Is this LeBron James's fault? That's an interesting topic that I'll get into another time. But what he's saying here is true. Players, they didn't feel the need to take a game off because a body part was sore. They didn't think, 3 games down the line, my game's going to be a little bit less good, so let me save up my energy now and do that later. That wasn't a part of their process. A lot of times you see players, Nikola Jokic playing a great game, one game, you see nothing, and then the next game he sits out. Is it Jokic's fault? Is it the NBA's, like the Denver Nuggets' fault? It's hard to tell. Like I said, some blame could be on LeBron James as a player. Some blame is on the San Antonio Spurs as an organization. They made this popular, and the NBA is now just living with their decisions.
And if you want to continue to use my service, then
pay me.
Take care of my business.
Besides the back-to-back travels, the shoes they used to wear, the equipment they trained with, the added salary, but when you also include taking games off, limiting back-to-backs, picking and choosing when a good time to play is, when a good time to put your stats up is, picking and choosing when it's okay to play defense. This is stuff that prolongs the modern NBA player's career.
What a bad way of looking at it for the fan. What a bad way of looking at it for the fan.
I hate to say that the fans have to see it that way.
Yeah.
But the players got to maximize what they can get in such a small window.
So interesting you're saying that. I mean, I can bring up some stats. Maximize earnings. So, Scottie, when you played, the median NBA salary in 93-94 season was $1.3 million.
Well.
That was a median salary, $1.3 million. Right? These guys, right now, it's $5.57 million. The average salary today in the NBA, at that time, the average salary was $1.75 million. The average salary today in the NBA is $11.124 million. That's almost 6x. That's not 7x.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in all fairness, I'm always be on the player's side.
I understand that.
So
you ought to be.
I definitely think that, from a player standpoint, I've been in this situation. I've been in the game.
He warned, once you detach from regular people in America, you will pay a price.
What do you think about what I just said?
That's true fact. I mean, fans are students of the game as well. They're not just fans, they know the game. And so you seeing players over there that you worked hard all week to earn money and to bring your family out for a family evening, and now they got sitting over there in sweats. That's not even a team uniform. And it's like, really? Is this what I save my $800 for? To come see this guy stand on the sideline?
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's truly right. I mean, but that's the direction of where the game is. You cannot make players play. And to be honest, this will continue to go on.
Oh, I agree. No,
it's not going to stop.
I agree with you.
By no means do I have any ideas or plans to fix the NBA. Not legitly. I mean, I have some things they could bring back and things of that nature. I think the defense is something that's lacking. But really, when it comes to, the players and how much they're favored and things of that nature versus the fans' interest, in my personal opinion, the NBA might go back to the way it was in the 70s and 80s about 50 years from now. There will be a time when the NBA players, they're going to get their money, they're going to be overspoiled, and it will get to a point where we're watching guys who are just shooting basketballs making billions of dollars, and they won't even have that love and hustle and drive that they once had. And honestly, it might even be that the NBA has to revert all the way back, as in have a downside just to have an upside again, because I don't really see how there's any coming back from a player earning $100 million a year. How can a player fulfill his dream, his destiny, his goals of being an NBA champion basketball player when he's making $100 million a year? Whereas a bench player, you have bench players like Bronny, Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves is not necessarily a bench player, but Austin Reeves is just as popular as a Jamal Murray and things of this nature. You have players who don't deserve the credit or aren't even that good, and they're just as known as some of the best players in the league. And what does that do? It shows that you can be a mid player, make your millions of dollars. You can just play basketball and get money. Or before, a lot of the things that gravitated the fans was you knew these guys wanted to play basketball. They loved basketball just as much as you loved basketball. Didn't you wish you were 6'8", 6'10", 6'4", 6'5"? If you had the God-given ability, I'm sure you would have pushed it a little bit harder. So these guys definitely do have it, and they take advantage of the fans, and they think either they think now or they will think later on that they're straight up better than us and that they're a class upon their own. As I don't think athletes, though they are big, I don't think they should get as big as what will come in the future.
Players are now at the point where they are saying, I'm going to play 50 games.
Wow. And owners can't say shit.
And you're going to pay me for 82.
That is unfreaking believable, Scotty. That's why I would never own an NBA team. I got a call on the opportunity to be a minority owner of 2 NBA teams. And a guy called me for MLB, and a guy called me for the Raiders. When this guy called me, he's a well-known guy that sells teams. And I was interested in the Raiders, but to me, it would, it's between that or the Yankees. I'm going to go Yankees. So I won Yankees. I bought 2 rounds of ownership. Anybody that sells, I was interested. And when the NBA came about, I had zero interest because I don't believe in the product. I think they've destroyed the product where who would want, like, even a Mark Cuban as astute businessman sold. By the way, don't get me wrong. The NBA is going to keep getting paid. Why? Because they're winning internationally. The eyeballs are increasing. They're going to keep making money. The product is not going away. Guys are going to start making $80, $100 million a year the next 5 to 10 years. They're going to get paid.
So is that 48% viewership being down not hurting them?
That's here. Because they can go internationally and still be able to tell marketers and say, hey, look how many eyeballs we're getting here.
As much as I love basketball, leave basketball out of Saudi Arabia. For basketball's sakes and for Saudi Arabia's sakes. They don't mesh. They don't need to be together.
100-point game. Will anybody break that?
The last part, he was asked about the records that can be broken. And as far as 100-point game, he picked Wembanyama. Wembanyama is also my pick. If someone's going to break the 100-point game, in my eyes, Wembanyama is a perfect player to do it. He has the size to take advantage of easy baskets. He has a 3-point line, and he can shoot the 3-ball. Plus, he's not going to miss the free throws if he gets, over-dominant and people start trying to foul him and stuff. So, I think Wemby definitely has the chance to drop 100 points. Will he do it? That's up to him. I think he'll have to have a lot of points in the paint first. But we'll have to see when it comes to Wemby's performance in the later years and things of that nature. As far as the video is concerned, that's it for the video. Hope you guys liked it. If you had any suggestions as far as the reaction is concerned, or you would like to have me on the corner there. Definitely show this video some support, give it a like or a comment, and I'll try to get back to it next time. This is my first real reaction video. Until next time, salam.